Hello everyone, and welcome to Let's Play EVE Online. So today I decided to give you guys a look at what a proverbial milk run looks like for me. Alright, now as you can see, I'm in the Amarr System, and I've set destination for my headquarters in Pashanai, and I've got my Iteron Mark V here. I've got her set up with a improved cloaking device 2, and 10 MN micro warp drive, and a bunch of reactor control units so that I can fit the micro warp drive, and a few cargo expanders. This isn't like my end-all be-all hauler. This was actually just something I threw together, because my end-all be-all hauler is actually out in a different region right now, so couldn't exactly, bring that one back. One of the interesting quirks of jump clones is it's a little hard to always make sure that every jump clone has access to everything it needs all the time. Yeah, not so much. So, I did want to give you guys a quick look at how transportation goes for me in this game when I tend to get supplies and such. Normally this would be really dull stuff. However, if you'll notice on the waypoint, I've got 2 low-sec systems that I'll be going through here. Now, let me show you the route without the low-sec systems, the safer route, as it were. 18 jumps, as opposed to 16 jumps. Yes, it's not that much farther, but let's take a look here. So, this route has 1 system, and there was actually a guy camping one of the gates in this system here that I zipped on by when I came out here. I'm not terribly worried about that. Compared to the safer route, which takes me up through these systems, which are really dangerous. Now, they might not be so dangerous at this particular moment, but I still worry going up into these areas, because that's the transiting Jita route, and the transiting Jita route is a guaranteed gank if you're not careful. There's almost always a gate camp going on there, and I once lost over 2 billion ISK worth of stuff because I was being a little bit careless out there coming back from Jita. Yeah, last time I take one of my freshly purchased battleship blueprints in an industrial that does not have a cloak MWD setup on it. That was a bad call on my part. And I also like this route just because it's off the beaten path, and it does also kind of go through some of my old stomping ground systems. I used to actually be set up in Cador. Let's see if I can remember exactly. Yeah, here we are. I used to actually be set up in this system, Yerbap. There's a level 4 agent there who is currently in the what is it? Manufacturing or industrial or whatever the agents are that give you hauling missions. Didn't used to give hauling missions. This was back before CCP really regimented the agent stuff. So, anyways, I don't have much in the way of cargo this time around, just some occult processes and a copy of the jump drive calibration skill book, which I'll be using tomorrow morning, since I have, as you can see here, 7 hours left on jump drive op 5. And I've got jump fuel conservation and Sino field theory queued up in there to save, so I don't halt all my training of important stuff over the evening. It's about 9 o'clock right here right now, even though it's 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. Eve time. So I'm going to undock here and start this run. So what I'm actually going to do, though, I'm going to do 1 jump, and yeah, it's Amarr. The station is always crowded out here. Just to give you an idea, pull up this one, see all this stuff, and there's at least half a dozen people who are camping outside of the Amarr station, waiting to catch people that they have war decks on or something. So, it's crowded out here. It's like a mini Jita. Anyways, what I'm going to do, I'll make 1 or 2 jumps to give you guys a sense on what the cloak MWD trick is like while I'm in high sec, and then I will show you the second half of the run, starting with just before I jump into Vecamia, all the way up through docking over at Pashanai. So that's the plan here. Hopefully abridge the video a little bit, and then I'll give you guys a look-see at what these occult processes are going to be for. They're snazzy little things. I mean, they're basic, you know, invention stuff. Increases the chance of me inventing successfully by 10%, and the mineral and production efficiencies are boosted, so they're only -1 instead of -4. Okay, so let me show you the cloak MWD trick here. So this is a timing critical thing, so I'll show it and then I'll explain it. And off I go. So here's what happens. I align to the target gate, and immediately, well, not immediately, I have to wait a second for the command to actually trigger into the system, but I will simultaneously trigger the micro warp drive and the improved cloaking device too. You can trigger a module, you can have a module active when you cloak, and that module will finish its cycle with its full effect. Really snazzy thing, that. So what happens is, the improved cloaking device cuts my speed by 1/4. The micro warp drive gives me a 500 some odd % speed boost. I forget the actual value. But either ways, it's really good. I'm going to pull it off again here so you can see. You can see my velocity is still pretty high. So what happens when those two effects combine, I actually get a higher speed than I would normally. Not all the case with all ships because of the mass effect. God, I said Mass Effect, didn't I? Because of how micro warp drives and also afterburners boost speed in proportion to a ship's mass. So the real trick with this is that you align and you warp to, or you align and you punch the cloaking device in the micro warp drive. You wait for the micro warp drive to finish cycling, and as you'll notice here, I have auto repeat off currently, so it doesn't try to repeat into a second cycle. And then, just as the micro warp drive is finishing its cycle, you cut the cloak and warp to the gate. And what'll happen is, as you'll see again here, get a good zoomed up look on this thing so you can see for good, you see really good the cloak is active. And punching it like that. And zip through. Alright. So I'm going to cut the video here and pick it up again when I hit low sec. And welcome back, folks. So as you can see, my next jump is going to be into that first low sec system of Vecamia. And I'll be jumping in there in just a moment. So you can see I've changed my overview setup to this low sec thing, which is my traveling through unsafe areas view. And as you can see, it shows me both gates and ships. And then I pull off the same stunt that I did before. And wait for the micro warp drive to cycle. Kill the cloak and warp. So, this is a really effective tool, and there's a video on it that covers it in far more detail than I'm doing right now. It's the one that I actually learned from. Seamus Donahue of Eve University has this great video. I'll provide a link to it in the description. Well worth watching. I also recommend practicing the bejesus out of this thing before you take it into low or nullsec. Now there's a few problems with using the cloak micro warp drive trick that go beyond the kind of issues you'd run into, and if it's high sec, I'll just warp there. That go beyond the issues that you would run into if you were using a covert ops cloak. These only apply to nullsec, and for the very specific reason of warp bubbles. one of the major advantages of the Covert Ops Cloak is that you can have it active during warp. Not just, when you're priming up for the warp, but during the actual warp. So if you get caught in a bubble, you're still cloaked. Now, that doesn't apply when you're jumping out of a gate, and actually the last time that I got that I got killed, I even got pod killed that time too, was because I was just coming out of a gate into a camp, and I got bubbled, and I wasn't playing that one too smart, but either ways, it's stuff that shouldn't have got me, but it did. So, the Cloak MWD trick will not protect you against warp bubbles in the same way that a Covert Ops Cloak can. Now, in low sec, it's effectively identical. You'll see basically no difference between a Covert Ops Cloak and the Cloak Micro Warp Drive trick in low sec. It's great. Absolutely wonderful. You can use it on just about every type of vessel as well. Capital ships are out. They just don't have the agility to get up to speed in time. I think you can do it with battleships, but I haven't actually tested that yet, so don't quote me on that. Or rather, test it in high sec before you do it. I have tried to do this with an Orca, believe it or not. I loaded up the Orca with every single agility thing that I could, and it didn't work. I tried really, really hard, and it just didn't work. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't load myself up with, snake implants and Tech 2 rings to do this with. So, maybe if you're willing to spend multiple times what the Orca is actually worth to get the Cloak MWD trick to work with it, then maybe, but something to try out for a tryout on CC, I guess. But yeah, cruisers will work great with. Industrials, it's perfect for. A warning though, transport ships. The heavy-duty industrials with the warp core strength, you actually do need to put some agility modifiers on it for it to work. I prefer to use the inertial stabilizers because it gives me the option of converting it back into a hauler and leave the rigs for cargo capacity. But you can mix and match it however you want, but you do need some agility modifiers on it. And with the Caldari one, the Bustard, I think it is, that's gonna knock your cargo capacity down to about 17 to 19k, depending on how exactly you set it up. So, believe it or not, you'll actually get more out of an Iteron Mark V that needs to use, all these power grid boosting things. Now, however, I will say that it looks like CCP is going to be making some changes to industrials, which includes boosting the power grid so that they should all be able to fit a micro warp drive without needing any sort of boosts. Which means you can basically take your Mark V that's been kitted up like crazy and just slap a micro warp drive on it and use this, your 30k cubic meter fit Iteron Mark V. That will be nuts. Along with several other changes that they're looking at, which are actually kind of cool. I will see if I can dig up the link to that as well and put it in the description. No guarantees because I kind of lost it, but there was one of the devs who was posting about that. So, all right, next low sec system is Becky. It's actually right next to my headquarters system, and be there pretty soon. But yeah, this trick is what got me out of high sec. It really is what got me out of high sec. That's kind of funny though, because the most expensive thing about this ship, the one that I'm using right now, is the cloaking device. It's absolutely hilarious that for something like this, the cloaking device is the most expensive thing on it. But it is actually kind of cool because I can get this crazy capacity while being able to move through low sec with a lot of security. And Yeah, I know, I'm not talking much while I'm doing this. The reason for my silence while I'm doing the actual the warp setup, is because the timing is so critical that messing it up it's really really bad. You mess it up, and you know, if there was a ship there and I'd messed that up, I would have been dead, guaranteed, flat out. There's no way around that. I mean, Mark 5 is really kind of paper thin. I mean, my effective hit points is 3.6k, which is junk. I mean, I could get cut through easily. Yeah, this yeah. So, all right, here I am. Okay, and then warp to the starbase because that's my first stop. So, and I can switch myself back over to the navigation view. So you'll notice the low sec view here. It's got starbase. It's got starbase. It's got gates displayed, and I also have, as you saw earlier, ships displayed in there as well. It also has all of the icons pop up for everything, so I can very quickly get an assessment on what's at a gate, just visually, very quickly, because that's what I need. When I come out of a gate, I've got 60 seconds before the gate cloak drops to figure out what I want to do. Navigation, however, is much simpler. It just shows me the gates, because that's really all I'm interested in. I don't care about anything else when it comes to flying around in high sec, and I'm trying to go from point A to point B. Okay, so come here and make sure... Yes, I got my data cores. Yeah, 160 Amarrian Starship and Mechanical Engineering data cores. Some of you, I'm sure, are going to be like, I know exactly what he's doing with that. Let me go back and dock, and for the rest of you, you'll find out in a moment. So, but yeah, the navigation one is just gates, and sometimes, you know, explore sort of beacons and such if I feel up to it. But I have it sorted by the icon, and what this will do is it will have the next Stargate in my jump pop up at the top. Even for the low sec one, it'll do that too. So no matter what's at the gate, I can just align and go as quickly as possible if I need to. So I've got options to work with there. A little bit of tricks. But anyways, navigation. So that's the one I want right now since I'm back in high sec and not worrying about stuff. And all right. So now you get to see what those invention materials were for. Plop that in my item hanger. Corp hanger. Close those up, and there for these Armageddon blueprint copies. So, invention. And for those of you who know, or for those of you who don't know, what one invents off of an Armageddon blueprint is a Redeemer blueprint copy. And a Redeemer is the Amarrian Black Ops battleship. As I've mentioned before, that's kind of the direction I'm going in. I kind of want to get a Black Ops so that I can have a little bit more flexibility and freedom out in low sec and null sec. Even training up a new character to serve as a jump bridge monkey, as it were, because there's a route that I want to do on a regular basis that I can basically just get that character camped in one of the transit systems in, because it's farther than one jump will be able to get me. So I just get that extra character sitting in the transit system, and just there when I need her to bridge my main character to the intermediary system. Then I log out that bridging character and log in my primary alt in the destination system and use my main alt to bridge Calvin to the destination system. So it's about a 12 to 14 light year transit, and with the skills that I'll have when I get Black Ops, I get 7 light years per jump. So All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is what a milk run is for me. I make that somewhat regularly, whenever I need stuff that isn't just minerals. And you've seen the cloak micro warp drive trick. As I mentioned, I'll put a link to Seamus Donahue's brief tutorial on it, which I recommend to anyone and everyone. Cloak MWD is one of the most amazing things. I mean, if you can, use it. It is awesome. And I'll see if I can dig up that information on the changes to the industrial ships. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys in the next episode.